define you. You're still young. I've said it myself. It's comforting. It's well-intentioned, but it's not entirely true. Because while high school may not define you in the obvious ways, like your GPA, your popularity, the college you get into, it shapes you in quieter, deeper ways that follow you long after graduation. My name is Jace Marzan, and I'm a counselor with a master's degree in counseling psychology, as well as a bachelor's degree in child analysis and development. But I want to be clear about something. I'm not here to talk about youth from theory. I'm here to talk about youth from my own youth. As someone who once walked these same halls at Westmoor High School, this feels like a little bit of a homecoming for me. And it's meaningful because I am now the adult I once needed. From the perspective of a child of immigrants, navigating identity, pressure, mental health, without always having the words or support to name what I was feeling or really understand them. It's not just the accomplishments that shape us. We talk about graduation, we talk about our GPAs, we talk about the college you get into and apply to, but it is the quieter things, the things we don't really talk about, the things that only we hear as people of ourselves. So I'm here to tell you that those things matter, those quiet voices in your head that are ignored. They shape you to become the adult you become, and it follows you way after graduation. Before Westmoor, I attended Jefferson High School. I was expelled, and when that happened, I didn't just think I messed up at school. I thought I had messed up my entire life. I was a child of immigrants, and education felt like everything. It was stability. It was survival. It was the promise that all of my parents' sacrifices would be worth it. So when I got expelled, I didn't feel like I just disappointed myself, but I felt like I disappointed my entire family. When I arrived to Westmoor, I already felt like I didn't belong. Westmoor has a strong community, or so it was said, but internally, I felt completely alone. I ate lunch in the bathroom, not once, but regularly. Sure, there were people I talked with sometimes. There were people I walked with to class, and there were even different groups where I tried to sit with during lunch. But I never felt like I truly belonged. That quiet voice, the one that says, you're not meant to be here, you don't belong, that you don't matter. That quiet voice was louder than any other voice that I've heard, and the voice that I've only heard within myself. In my senior year of high school, we had an assignment, a 6-word memoir in my psychology class with Mr. Dan Arzaga. And in that class, I wasn't learning just content, I was learning about myself. That 6-word memoir was anything about ourselves, what we can encompass in 6 words. And my 6 words were pessimistic, overthinking everything, expecting the worst. And that assignment, I did overthink it. And it was truly how I felt at that time. I didn't expect good things to last. I was always bracing for the next failure. It was always a surge of disappointment for me. In that same class, we had to write journals where we collected psychological concepts from different parts of our lives. It could be a movie, a book, another class. So my very first journal, in September 12th of 2014, I wrote about a story we read in my film as literature class, Grisha by Anton Chekhov. That was a short story where a young child leaves his house for the first time and tries to understand everything. He calls a small dog a cat because that's all he knew. And Mr. Weathers, my film as literature teacher at the time, kept repeating a quote by Anais Nin: "We see things not as they are, but as we are." And that quote stayed with me. I thought, this is something I could write about. And so I connected it to the psychological concept of schemas, which are mental categories that shape our worldview, how we see things, our perceptions, our biases, and our frames. And to repeat that quote again by Nice Nin, we see things not how they are, but as we are. Fast forward another 10 years, I got a job as a counselor, and during an icebreaker for a training, that same familiar assignment came up. Write a 6-word memoir. And this time, it came easy to me. I thought about the first time I did this, and I reflected, and I realized in that time, I was reflecting, finding myself in the process, and still finding myself after all these years, but knowing that it's an ongoing experience. And that's growth. And coincidentally, in that same training, that same nice Nin quote was said by the presenter. We see things not as they are, but as we are. But this time, it came with an extension. We see things not as they are, but as we are, because it is the I in the I that does the seeing. And I thought about that too. I have grown so much, so my eyes see things differently. And I realized that wasn't failure. I wasn't overthinking everything as much, and I am growing. So I grew, I adapted, I really coped in ways that I knew how at the time. Times where I would sit in the bathroom, times where I would shrink and really minimize myself so I would blend in the background. Those were ways that I knew how to at the time. So we always talk about resilience in young people, but we don't always ask what we had to survive to become resilient. I like to think I'm a resilient person, but those times were difficult. We talk about those things in silence, inside of us, but never really out loud. But those things aren't flaws, they're adaptations. Hyper-independence, perfectionism, people-pleasing. Those things shape us to become resilient. And they are important to who we are today. When I started the job as a counselor, something unexpected happened. I started meeting my younger self, and the student who tries so hard but doesn't feel noticed, and the student who doesn't know how to ask for help or hesitates, and the student that feels like they need to do everything themselves, and the student that doesn't know yet that their experience deserves care. I am the adult I once needed, and yet I still am the student I once was. Every day I see students who are brilliant, capable, and kind, but they don't know that yet. And I think about myself during my youth. I was brilliant, I was capable, but that was unheard to me. So when adults say that high school doesn't matter, I offer a reframe. Your youth does shape you, not in the ways that you think, but in the quieter, unheard ways. How we talk to ourselves when times get hard, whether we feel like we need to shrink or stand up, and whether we can speak out and share what we truly feel. So this is an invitation for adults to think about your youth. Think about the habits you created and whether those habits are still shaping you or if they need to be revisited. For youth, for students, to think about your experience right now, all those invisible parts of you, and know that they matter, even if it feels invisible, even if it feels like it isn't important. And for all of us to stop dismissing youth as just a phase, and instead honor it as the foundation of who we become. I stand here back at Westmoor, not completely healed from my experience, but still healing and knowing that those unheard parts, I am listening to them, and I am listening to them closely, and that is what is giving me healing and purpose to this day. Thank you.